And we're live. All right, Ghatlue, how's it going? Welcome to the Elite Encounter podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to have a podcast with you. It's going to be fun.
Of course. It's my pleasure. So, kind of to get this started and to, to introduce ourselves to people that might not know us, what I usually like to do is talk a little bit about ourselves, how we got involved with Pokemon Unite, and that sort of stuff. But let's first start with, what do you do outside of Unite? Where'd you grow up? What's your story?
So I'm born in Germany and I grew up in a small city in Germany. It's not like when people ask me, where do you live in Germany? I can't really tell where, other than that I live in the north side of Germany because the city is very small and nobody really knows it. So when I usually went to school, and after school I graduated, and then I did like a social year. And while I was doing the social year, I got into touch with Unite. And after that, I'm doing social studies while competing in Pokemon Unite.
So you're still in school?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, I see. So that makes you quite young, I guess, compared to me.
I mean, I'm 24, so I'm a bit older as well. So.
Yeah, I'm 32. Actually, so yeah, I finished. Actually, I did my university in the U.S. I grew up in the U.S. in Phoenix, Arizona, and I studied business, computer information systems. And I did that as a job for like 1 year. I worked at Amazon, and long story short, working in the corporate environment traumatized me.
Okay, I can get that.
Yeah, but to be honest, it might also just be an Amazon thing.
Is this where your name came from, by the way, Phoenix?
Well, originally, so we played a match together, and originally my username was just like 1337bro, and you were like, well, that's gonna be confusing.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'll change it. And it was a name that I was thinking for a while, just because it sounds cool, and I was raised in Phoenix, so why not?
Yeah, it's a cool story. It's always nice to have a story behind your name.
Do you have a story behind yours?
It's a very long story, but 12 years ago, I started playing a game which is called Elsword, and it's like a 2D MMO. And my brother and me needed to create a character, and he gave me the name Ghatlue, and then I just used it for all my stuff.
You just rolled with it?
Yeah.
That's kind of funny because it reminds me of another story I have with like a username I use on Reddit. But I created it because back when Halo was a thing, I wanted a username that was as funny as possible. Because, it says, this player killed you, whatever. And I wanted it to be something funny, so I named it Crappinator. On Reddit, I don't know if you know, but you cannot update your username. So my Reddit username is still Crappinator.
That's funny.
Yeah, I was thinking of doing that as my Unite username, but yeah, I don't know about that. Imagine being at a tournament and people being like, Crappinator.
Yeah, I mean, we have the weirdest names out there, for sure.
What are some funny ones that you've heard?
I really like Protein Shake from America. He's one of the coolest players I know. And there's like Banana Split and stuff like that. There's crazy names.
Yeah, I think it's good to have something a little bit unique so that you stand out a little bit and people are going to remember you a little bit better.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a little bit more about your background. How did you end up getting into Unite? I'm pretty sure you have experience with other MOBA games, right?
Yeah, so it was pretty easy for me to get into Unite. To get into the competitive scene, it was a different story. So I have been playing over 9 years League of Legends, but only as a casual. So I think in the 10th season, I reached Master for the first time. And so it was my peak in League of Legends. And while I got my peak in League of Legends, I also, Pokemon Unite came out. My brother told me, hey, you want to play this game? And back in the day, I didn't have Switch. My brother was the only person with a Switch because I grew up in a poor household. And when I started Pokemon Unite, it took me 2 weeks to reach the master. And I was like, hey, maybe I can make money with it. So I started coaching on a website called Fiverr. And I made big money in the first month coaching. And with that money, I was able to buy my own Switch and start playing Pokemon Unite.
Nice. So you got clients on Fiverr for coaching.
Yeah.
Interesting. I know there are specific websites for coaching, but I never heard of anyone finding clients on Fiverr. That's actually pretty interesting. Maybe I should consider that. Are you still doing that?
The website is kind of gone. Like in the beginning, it was very popular because Unite just came out and it was one of the like most popular MMOs since it just released. So there were like a lot of people, but now that it like shrank, MetaFi is probably the best website to coach.
What was it, MetaFi? Or
Yeah, MetaFi. This is where like a lot of people, you can see like Zakrak, Brav, like all the well-known names coach on that website.
So are you currently coaching on there?
I am currently not coaching since I have to manage my personal life and my competitive life. So once I get better hold of it, schedule-wise, I will be coaching. I do offer coaching when I have like subscriptions, for example. But other than that, I used to coach more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, I did something similar. I tried to make money in a similar way, I guess, but not quite the same. So what I did when Unite came out was I made a online course and I put it on Udemy. And the course was called Pokemon Unite Masterclass. And it was supposed to be on how to get into Master Rank for Pokemon Unite.
Yeah.
It got a few sales, but nothing really crazy. But as you know, getting into Master Rank is really easy.
Yeah, they make it a lot easier now.
I mean, I think it was easy always. It was always easy, like.
Yeah.
And if you just look at it from an analytical standpoint, because I used to do analysis and data analytics as a job. Essentially, if you put enough time into it, you will get Master Rank.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you mentioned a little bit earlier that you're trying to balance your like pro scene playing competitive stuff and then your personal life. What can you tell me a little bit of your like what's the day in the life of Ghatlue, the pro competitive player?
So when my uni has vacation, I obviously have more time to prepare and do stuff. I pretty much have vacation playing Unite, meaning like when I travel to different countries, this is kind of my vacation, while I also compete. So for Pokemon Unite, I think you need at least like 2 to 4 hours a day to be in a high level in the competitive scene. It's not that much compared to other games. However, when you first start, I always recommend people like play a lot of solo queue to get used to the game, especially when it's your first MOBA, because I think it's a bit hard to understand a MOBA game when the game is only 10 minutes and there's so many things happening.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty much in the morning and in the afternoon it's my job life or real life, I guess, in a sense. And then at night I'm a gamer, which competes and plays professionally.
Well, actually, this is something I asked a lot of my other guests, but did you notice a specific time of the day when you play better? Because I've noticed that with me at least.
It's a good question. I think from experience, I don't like playing in the mornings. So when I have to wake up at like 6 a.m. to compete at 9 a.m. in a tournament, it was always really rough for us because we always used to play much better at 11 p.m. Or like 1 p.m. is like fine because then you just wake up, you prepare for your day. Like as a gamer, you don't really want to play in the morning and then it's like kind of crazy. So especially like 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. it's fine. And then at night it's usually the peak time. Obviously when you get sleepy,
you
don't really.
Well, that's actually quite interesting because I'm kind of on the other end of the spectrum. Like I've learned like with my experience that sometimes I perform best, let's say, at the same time when I am also most productive, like when I can get the most work done.
Yeah.
And so what that means essentially is that it's not necessarily like in the morning when I play best, but like after I've had my morning routine and maybe after I exercise. But for me, I notice like a little bit before lunch is when I play best, and like early afternoon, where I've had like time for the lunch food to settle and to digest. Because I've noticed if I eat a lot of food, especially heavy carby food, and then I try to play, my mind is like super slow.
Yeah.
So, are you also implementing exercise to help you with your gameplay?
When so I was trying to balance that in the last year, and it didn't work out too well because I was focusing too much about being healthy, I guess, which is really important. But I think it's important also to know that you have to practice, you have to set up, you have to what review. So if you go to the gym like me every night, and then you come home, you don't really want to play, you just want to sleep. So that's not the greatest thing. So especially having a good routine can balance your professional life and your real life, I guess.
Yeah.
But for me, I would say it's a bit different. I think it might be different for other pro players, but I can play always the best I can when I'm in the zone. So after one game, for example, if I lose, I will be frustrated with myself, and then I will try to lock in. And being in the flow state is one of the most important things as a pro player. So in the flow state, you feel like you can do everything, and nobody can stop you. And this is something that I think every pro player wants to achieve with his team. And it's really hard because it's a team game.
Yep.
And being in a flow state with an entire team is something that is gonna be it's a big achievement.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like if you look at our ancestors back in the day when they would, I don't know, be hunter-gatherers. I feel like playing Unite is kind of similar to what it might be like if we would have to get a small group of men and go hunt an animal or something. We have to be on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
But I think it is important. I noticed that the concept of flow state when I was playing the other MOBAs, because I also have a ton of experience with MOBAs. Actually, I played MOBAs back when that acronym wasn't even a thing. With I think the first one I played was Dota 1, and it was on the Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne custom map, and that was just a custom map made by the community. Yeah. Did you ever play that one?
I have only played League of Legends. So League of Legends was my first MOBA, and then I started playing a little bit other MOBA games, but primarily League of Legends. I did play competitively, but it's another genre, so it was a killer game. It's called Dead by Daylight, and this was my first ever competitive team. So I used to have a team of 4 and 1 killer, so a team of 5. And that was a pretty fun experience. And this is where I started. I just love the adrenaline that you get from competing, and it's in a sense, it's like a drug.
I know what you mean.
Because it's just you love it. You don't want to stop, even though you know it's not right when you can't succeed, right? So,
yeah, I mean, I think if you find the right balance, then it's fine. Because, I think in general, in society, gamers are seen kind of with a negative perspective. But I think if we manage to have a good balance, then it's a hobby and it's something that we're passionate about. And if we're passionate about it, that's what matters. Because, well, if you don't have any other passions, then it's not really that good either. But that's why I think I'm not sure how flexible your schedule is, but I've always tried to work these kind of jobs where I have a flexible schedule and flexibility in terms of where I live. So if you don't know, right now my day job is teaching English online, but I have a few other projects that I do. I have several projects I'm always working on, and because of that, I have some gaps in my schedule. And so I fill it with, I don't know, exercise, some matches of Unite, other stuff. And it kind of, honestly, it kind of feels similar to what it would be like in college, at least for me, because you had a class in the morning, then you had maybe half an hour to an hour break until you have your next class. And in between, you'd have to go into a different building. Yeah. Is that kind of what your schedule is like?
Yeah, it's kind of similar. I try to separate my Uni life from Unite life. So I primarily play Unite at night, afternoon. So at 5 p.m., it's I'm trying to turn something down from my brain.
Yeah.
When I focus on Unite, I switch down from my Unite, and when I focus on my studies, I switch. So I took a 3 month, not 3 month, 3 weeks break for my exam because I couldn't focus playing Unite and doing studies. it's obviously gonna be harder in the during the season, especially when you play like regionals and you have to prepare for an exam. So I'm always finding this balance that in the morning till afternoon you focus on one thing, and then at night it's just for me at night it's gaming time. So obviously you don't want to stay awake too much, but like you said, uni life is kind of chill if you don't really do the highest education, I guess. I don't know if it's how it is with other educations. I do social work, and social work is like a really friendly, I would say, and it's just something I really like to do because I like helping people.
Yeah, I think that's also the same reason why I teach, because I help people. I can see them improving, and it helps them earn more money because then they get a better job, and et cetera, et cetera. So I guess we have that in common. But I think for me, like if I notice, like if I play in the afternoon or in the evenings, like when most players play, I just struggle. I notice like my decision making isn't as good, or, you know, I think there has to be like a balance that needs to be struck. And there's definitely a learning curve to this. I think this is also something I learned in college when I was in college, because like in the mornings, I noticed that I was much better when it came to learning. And then I had some evening classes, like late classes, like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. And I was just like, I don't know. I just wasn't able to learn as well.
Yeah, same. Like, if I have evening classes and my brain just turns off. I think what is really important when you are a gamer, it is that you have a goal while you play the game. I used to always play Pokemon Unite because I had fun. And then I started like learning more over the years that I actually play every single game with a goal. It can be like learning the Swablu timers. It can be focusing on getting high level for Groudon. But having a reason why you are learning is going to be really important for the long term. Because in the beginning, you're just going to have fun. But if you want to play professionally, obviously, if you're a kid, you probably just want to play and have fun. But if you want to like, be like in the next level, I would say every time you play Pokemon Unite, you should have a goal.
Yeah.
Even at the, like 1 hour sessions, you should have a goal. You should have a goal. Today I want to improve on the early game. So I'm going to try my best or set a really high focus on focusing on the early game.
Yeah. I did something like that, except my goal was to just not die in certain matches.
A good goal.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people actually underestimate how much experience you give the enemy team if you are super high level and then you die. Like, it can make a huge difference. It can swing the game so much, and especially if you're a carry or a high level. But I think that's the reason why I also don't play those let's say risky roles, because like attacker is quite risky or very squishy. It's easy for you to just get jumped on and ganked, and then you give a lot of experience. So in some ways, I think this is something that you probably understand really good. Like, do professional teams prefer to go for the risky strategies or for the less risky, more sure strategies? Because I notice a lot of teams prefer to put all of their experience onto the attacker, which is, I think, risky, because if the attacker dies, then, well, they give a ton of experience to the enemy. But if they kind of distribute the experience throughout the team members, or give more experience to, let's say, a defender, defenders are much tankier, they're less likely to die, etc., etc. So I could see that as a less risky strategy. Have you guys thought about that sort of thing?
I think we are seeing it differently. We are going with the flow. So there's 3 different aspects from Pokemon Unite. You have the carry player, you have the off-tank, you have the supportive attacker player. So if your attacker is like an Inteleon, he's a carry. But if he's an Espeon, he's a supportive attacker. But he can also be high level if he has a good game. So it really depends on how the game goes for the player itself. Speedster is obviously going to be high level because they are fast, they're squishy, they deal a lot of damage. Top laners can also be high level, but then you can have like top laners like Blastoise. Blastoise is a defensive top laner who is not meant to carry, or in a sense he can carry, but he's a tank that doesn't require a lot of XP like an attacker. If you don't give him new level 13 at the end, you're griefing. So it really depends on the attacker. There's defensive attackers, Espeon, and carries, Inteleon. Top laners, and in jungle, in jungle you're pretty much always a carry. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you also learn as you play other MOBAs, or if you've played other MOBAs, because I've also played like a bunch, and similar situation with League of Legends. Like you have the carry, you have the tank, you have support, etc., and then you have like the off tank bruiser type of thing. Traditionally, I was always the type of player that would go for the bruiser. I guess that's why I really prefer playing the all-rounders or certain tanks. But, you know, I've noticed I've kind of gravitated towards playing tanks for multiple reasons. But how did you end up gravitating towards your preferred role, which is...
So I used to be a one-trick Wukong. I had like 1 million points in League of Legends. So I was like kind of always the top lane. I really like the character because Wukong in League of Legends is a character that is a type of bruiser. They can also be an assassin with the different builds.
Yeah.
So I really like playing bruisers, also tanks around us. So when I started Pokemon Unite, I immediately picked up Upsir because he was the first Pokemon that just instantly one-shotted everyone in the past.
Yep.
And in Pokemon Unite, my preferred role is being a speedster that can control the game from the early game to the mid game, and then in late game I just one-shot someone and let my team do the things. Or I play a top laner that is strong in the early game. I don't prefer Lucario as much because obviously he's a good top laner, but there's like a different playstyle. Lucario is good at securing and stuff. I used to not like being a secure Pokemon in the game, so I was always avoiding secure characters. Obviously, I used to be really good at securing with Greedent, but I like tanks, speedsters around us, and attackers I play for one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I was looking at because you played for Nouns in this recent tournament, and if I remember correctly, you didn't play tank. Which role did you play?
I actually only played speedsters in the World Championship, like only speedsters in the jungle. Even though I used to be I'm top lane for the game, I'm a top/jungle flex. So if my team needed me on the jungle, I would pick speedsters and like around us like Blaziken. So in the World Championship, I actually only played speedsters. I played Talonflame, I played Dodrio, I played Blaziken. And this is something that is important for professional teams. And I think a lot of teams can like agree with me that if you play a tournament, pick 5 to 6 Pokemon that you can master for the tournament instead of having a big champion pool.
Yeah.
Because when I ask you what champions can you play and you tell me everything, I'm gonna be really annoyed because you can't play everything. You have one good character that you are good at, that you're comfortable with, one character that you need to improve on. And when someone says this, he just doesn't know that he has limitations. You can't play everything. Obviously, there's like prodigies and stuff, but having 5 characters you are really good at is really important. So for the World Championship, I had like Leafeon, Talonflame, Dodrio, 3 speeders already. Then I had Blastoise and Blaziken. These were the 5 characters I would have played only in the World Championship. And if there's one situation where I say, Greedent looks great here, I would just pick Greedent. But you need to be reasonable with yourself and your time.
Yeah, definitely. So how important do you think it is to be able to, like, during a tournament, swap roles with another ally? So instead of playing defender, you play attacker, or instead of playing defender, you play all-rounder.
I think that defender support role should always stay the same, except when the top laner can also play a defender XP and the defender feels like he can carry. We saw similar things with 2024 with Fennel, where Tonja G played the carry role while the top laner was playing the defender role. If you can do that, it's fine, but support should always be support. You should never swap. However, I say that, but my support player also played jungle for us in the past, so it really depends on the team dynamic. But if you are, like you said, an easier team, a solid team, you have a support, you have a defender, you have an attacker, and the top lane and the jungle role can swap. Because attacker is like a really, like you said, squishy role, and not a lot of people can also play jungle and attacker because they don't have the fundamentals of an attacker player.
Yeah.
So these 3 roles should be set in stone: support, attacker, defender. But speedsters, like junglers and top laners, can be different, but it really depends. Like if you are flexible and you have the time to play. Because if you don't have a flexible top laner, you should not send him in the jungle. He's just gonna be confused and it's like, what the fuck is going on? Why is the game so fast? Because jungle is the most important role.
It's because sometimes there's situations where like maybe your preferred Pokemon gets banned, and then your second preferred Pokemon gets chosen by the enemy team, so you're left down to maybe your number 3 preferred Pokemon or your number 4, and maybe in that kind of situation, a quick swap can help. But this kind of stuff has to happen really fast in the draft phase, you know. So
Yeah, I have an example. So 2024, I start like even as a professional, I start being afraid of picking a certain Pokemon because I don't like it, I don't feel comfortable on it. So I asked Sadio, who was my jungle player, can you play Lucario? Because he also plays Lucario on top lane. I want to play jungle. So I played jungle in that game, and we also won. So it really depends on how you feel, but I think it's important to know who is your primarily top laner and who is your primarily jungler, and then you decide based on the swaps.
yeah,
Because you're just gonna be confused, and you have to like if you're not that good and you wanna be in a professional level, you have to learn 1 or 2 roles, one preferred in Pokemon Unite, to be good at it.
yeah. I think a lot of this also comes down to the kind of practice and the kind of dynamic you have with your team, and that's something that I've always kind of struggled with because, like, even before being able to find a good team, sometimes I notice that some teams, they have like they're very set in stone with their preferred role, and I like, for example, if I look at my top 5 months, like it's defenders and all rounders. It's a mixture of those 2 roles, and I think in some situations maybe you can counter pick or something like that. And being flexible is something that a lot of teams should be able to do. But I notice some people are so set in stone. I'm just like. But you know what? To be fair, when I think I played a match actually specifically where I played as Blastoise, and then the team wanted me to go attack Blastoise, like damage or carry Blastoise, and I was just like, that's a sign of a good team.
Yeah, it's like hard because I feel like one issue that Pokemon Art has is we have a lot of coach. I don't want to like flame all the coaches, but some of the coaches think they are good at the game, and then they coach people a specific way, and then it's not a flexible way. When I coach, I try to identify what is your strength from your team and yourself, and then try to implement that. Obviously, there's like their playstyle, the good playstyle. Europeans like to copy playstyles. They like to copy people from other regions, and then they are worse at it because they don't understand it.
Yep.
So I'm a big fan of teams having their own unique strengths and then accelerating from that, because you can't beat the best team that is best at playing normal while you're trying to play normal.
Yeah.
So this is like something I think a lot of people underestimate, that every team is different and every team has a different playstyle. Picking up stuff from other players is good and making it your own, but just trying to copy it, I think only worked in the first and second year. But now that we're in a state of Unite where the level rises, I don't think that works.
Mm-hmm. That's actually something that kind of grinds my gears, to be honest, because I've been using some strategies that, let's say, were unconventional in the early days, like XP share on Mewtwo X, and I started using XP share on Mewtwo X like really early on. And I mean, this was after he got nerfed, because when he got released, he was super OP.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. But I started using XP share on Mewtwo, and then I saw it in the tournament. But before it appeared in any tournaments, all of my allies, they would always just get tilted instantly. Like before the match would even start, they would just go AFK or they would just troll, you know? But then after the tournament, where there was an XP share Mewtwo, all of a sudden, everyone had so much more patience with my Mewtwo X XP share, you know? Like,
Yeah, that's the thing about Pokemon Unite or MOBAs in general. If you see that your Pokemon succeeds from a pro player perspective, like a pro player plays your character, people are going to like it. Back in the day, it used to be you play one composition in a tournament and you won. Everyone in ladder copied the composition.
yeah.
Sadly, it's not like that anymore in Unite, but when a content creator creates, like Chris Ewers is making a build, like he did the tweet, he did the Pedal Dance Sludge Bomb game, which was really good. He was like on the tweet, be careful, it's going to be Sludge Bomb Pedal Dance players.
Yeah.
Because he knows he has an effect on the Europeans or people in general, because they watch their videos and then they will try to copy it. Which is not really the best thing when you want to play Unite, but obviously, like, I think what you're struggling with is the common struggle with a lot of people that are more wanting to be more flexible. People are afraid of these people because you're unconventional and you're irritating their system.
Yes.
Their system is to play normal and to play off roles. So when they ask you to play top lane, they want you to play like Buzzwole, Blastoise, Lucario. And then you're like saying, I can play XP Mewtwo. What? What are you talking about, you know? So
Well, there are some situations. Well, there are some specific situations, and it happens often enough, which is why I chose XP Share on Mewtwo. Because, like, let's say I'm last to pick on the team, and we don't have an all-rounder, and we only have one, and we have a support with an XP Share. Maybe we have a tank like Gudra or Lapras, but they don't have XP Share equipped. So I'm like, I guess I'll go all-rounder with an XP Share.
Yeah, it's a fun way of playing, especially when you play XP Share. It's appreciated. Sadly, only people in Japan play double XP Share. In Europe, they don't care. But
Yeah.
The thing is, like, if you want to compete in a good team, first you have to make a name of yourself, saying I'm a good player. And then after you start making a name of yourself, you can start experimenting. Like, this is like a step-by-step process. If you want to be recognized and with your strength. So what I did in like 2024, when my team disbanded, like Nouns, and I wasn't with Nouns, I got invited to a team because I was a well-known player and I was good. But I actually had to learn top lane from scratch. So I was primarily focusing on learning the top laners, learning what my team wants, adapting what my team wants. Obviously, sometimes it's not the best for you, but this is like something you just have to sacrifice, adapting to what your team wants, and then later on maybe try to experiment.
Well, isn't that a trap? Because if you're getting good using, let's say, the mainstream strategies, when you are good and then you switch to doing unconventional stuff, it might require like a different perspective or a different shift in strategy, a different play style. And if you have to make that shift, maybe it sets you back a little bit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Obviously, like I couldn't do my unconventional strategies with my previous team Nouns because my team really liked to play standard and strong and normal. So when I try to cook, it's not gonna work because people will get confused. They have no idea what is going on. You have to be reasonable why you're doing things and when do you want to do things.
Yeah.
I like doing things by experimenting, but the others don't like it. So I just adapted to what does my team want from me? What are my strengths and what do they want? So I sacrificed trying to cook too much to play the way they want me to play. And it worked because you're adapting. You're like as a competitive player, you need to be adaptive. You can't always. I always thought like I had like 4 years of experience, right? I always thought like I can't play with these people. I can't play with this one. I can't play with this one. It's too much, you know. And then I realized I'm the problem, you know. Mm-hmm. I'm the one that plays too unconventional. So you have to set back sometimes if you want to be in a good team. But obviously, you can create your own team, which is what I did, and this is the way I got successful. Because in 2022, nobody wanted to play with me because I was unconventional. Then I created my own team and I got the best in Europe. This is like where I am. But this is really hard to achieve because it is like a lot of time investment.
Yeah.
You want to be like play a leading role. You want to be with good people, and it's hard. Like the competitive level rises and rises. So the best thing for new players is to start playing with people that are better than you to get better. And obviously, I see a lot of teams like reaching out to me in code saying, I want to be better with my team. I want to grow up. I want to be stronger. But it's hard. Like, it's really hard. You need to be a certain level so that works. Because you're only going to be frustrated when it doesn't.
Of course. Yeah, that's kind of a frustration that I have currently where, like, I need to find a team in order to be able to compete. So I'm kind of doing what you mentioned earlier about creating a name for myself, which kind of goes along this theory where you should like make a brand for yourself, you know? So like, do you think it's important for people to try to make a brand? Like, let's say make a name for themselves, but like, you know, create a brand for themselves. Like I changed my handle to Phoenix because I wanted it to be more distinguishable. I put my image as a Phoenix and all that, and that way people will be able to distinguish me better. Do you think that's what more people should be doing? Because I don't see a lot of competitors doing that.
You don't need to do that if you have the skill to prove that you are the best. So if if you play in houses and you destroy people in houses, people will talk. People will say, "Who is this guy?" You know, I recognize your name from ladder because you play a lot of ladder with me. And when you play, you're not the average solo queue player that just plays solo queue. So I know your name. So I like recognize you in the back of my head. So, but this is like I recognize you as a casual player who is better than average. But then when you start coming to the competitive pro scenes or the competitive servers where you play in houses and you destroy people, you literally destroy them by 1v1. People were like, who is that? Example, do you know Mbok?
I think so. It sounds familiar.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't really know his name, but he sounds familiar. He plays with Nachos, and he's a really good support. He's like someone that stepped up. He came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, I remember his name, and I respect him. I started playing with him later yesterday, and I enjoyed playing with him. Even if he can't like speak English as well as others, he is very good and very talented. So I think the theory about making a brand for yourself is true for content creation, but not for competitive. For competitive, the only thing you have to do is have connections. Connections is very important. The connections are always important, I guess. And making a name for yourself by being good.
Yeah.
By starting to play slowly with better people. For example, you had Nihat on your podcast. Nihat used to be average, good. All of a sudden, he had one tournament, UIC, where he was the Austrian wonder kid. He literally got this name by being one of the most surprising players in the tournament.
And what role did he play in that tournament?
I can't remember. I think he played attacker. But
see, that's the thing. That's the thing. This type of thing that you're describing, where people will recognize you and notice you, I feel like it happens more with players or roles that have a lot of potential to carry. Attackers, all-rounders, speedsters. And like you mentioned a support player, but I think support players and defenders kind of have this struggle where they don't get noticed as much because they have to play that role where they have to, sacrifice themselves for the team sometimes. You know what I mean?
I would disagree with that because, yes, it's hard for support and defender players, but support players like Leok knows. He surprised the entire European scene. Everyone loves Leok knows. You know the name, you know how strong he is, and everyone wants to play with him. Like he is a well-known name in the European scene, even though he's a support. So you can step up. Like you mentioned, there's gonna be probably only like 2 support players or 2 defender players who will make a name for themselves. So for example, Qatar. Do you know Qatar?
Yeah, I've played with him in houses.
Yeah. He's like one of the best defenders options out there. Gecko Kami, defender player. And like you said, I agree. Defender and support players, it's a bit hard because Girari is a defender player. You know him, right? You know Girari, the name, I think?
That one, not so much.
He's like a Spanish ego player.
Okay.
And I think he's really good, right? Like, I'm also gonna, I'm also gonna play with him. And I don't think people know like his values because people are afraid that he's an inter, and he is an inter. So it really depends on the role as well. I agree, but to make a name for yourself, you just make connections with pro players. For example, I talk with you. If you wanna get better, I can literally just invite you to the server, so you can start playing in houses, and then you can just make a name for yourself. Like especially when your English is very good, like yours. People like people that speak, not speak too much, but speak well. So
yeah, clearly
as well. So
yeah, I teach English, so.
But I think that what a lot of people don't do in the United scene, obviously because they are young, is they don't take coaching from the good people to get better. They don't really care about coaching. So I guess that's one problem. They can't afford the coaching, or they don't think they need the coaching to get better. So there's like a lot of topics we can talk about in this podcast, but ego is also one problem.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I talked about that a little bit, I think, with who did I talk about it with Yashi or with Nihat? But I have a long list of questions here.
Yeah.
You've already answered some of them as you were kind of talking. But yeah, that would actually be really good. I would love to be invited into those Discord servers. That's actually one of the things that that really leveled up my gameplay, I think, because at some point I was trying out for some teams. Like there were some other Discord servers for Pokemon Unite, and I was trying out for some teams, and this was for one of Yashi's previous teams. And I didn't make the team because I didn't want to run XP share on my Blastoise. Anyway, he invited me to this other Discord server that he made eventually, that he called Fight Club. And yeah. And it was really good for me because I was able to be like to play games with people who use voice chat. And that is the biggest difference for me, because you know, in ladder, like people don't use voice chat. Maybe we just randomly get banned from using voice chat or something, you know. It's like and that's what I noticed is really the game changer, because if you look at other games, I don't know, other competitive games, everyone uses voice chat. All the teams use voice chat. Like it's absolutely essential. And up until then, I was thinking I really need to find like ways to play with good players who use voice chat so I can understand what it's like to communicate well, to listen to them, to react to what they're saying. And for me, that was a huge game changer, along with other things, other aspects, like what we mentioned about what's conventional or not conventional. Because, well, even those pro players, let's say, they get tilted when they play some unconventional strategies.
Yeah, the problem with Unite is, I guess, like, one thing you have to understand is Pokemon Unite, a lot of people are Pokemon fans. Sure, there's people from other mobile genres that play Pokemon Unite, but Pokemon Unite's average is above average. There's not too many competitive players. You can see that from other regions like OCE. It's literally just a region with 8 teams. So the problem with Pokemon Unite is people that play Pokemon Unite, it's their first MOBA, so they don't have experience. They don't want to voice chat. They don't want to be involved with people. They just want to have fun, like you said. You have time, like 1 hour lunch break. You can literally play three Pokemon Unite games in just 10 minutes. And this is also one thing that I think makes Pokemon Unite one of the easiest games to get into the competitive scene and to be in pro level, because it's not that time consuming. Like you can literally play like 8 games in 2 hours.
Yeah, it's one of the big reasons why I decided to focus on Unite, because I played League of Legends on PC. I played League of Legends on mobile because they came out with Wild Rift. I played all these other MOBAs. And to be honest, it's kind of antiquated. Like the whole genre came about because of a custom map in Warcraft, or StarCraft, technically. And the whole structure of how stuff works was kind of limited to that map editor. And I think the whole system of destroying towers to reach the enemy base and then destroying the enemy base isn't actually necessary. And that's why I like Unite, because one of the aspects they changed is that, first of all, it's a countdown timer from 10 minutes, and it's whoever has the most points. Along with that change, they also changed the tower system. So instead of towers, they just have the goal pads. And honestly, it feels a lot better for this kind of genre, especially because you don't have to deal with the whole item system during the game. I mean, yeah, you still have the items before the match, but it's not something that you change during the match. And another MOBA game that allowed you to have some flexibility during the game was Heroes of the Storm, if you've ever played it. And that was made by Blizzard. I like that one a lot because over the course of the match, you can kind of choose your abilities a little differently so that you have I don't know, you can adapt your playstyle. And you can kind of do that Unite, but of course not with all Pokemon, because some of them don't have really good combinations with all their movesets. So I think those kind of things makes the game a lot more approachable, which means there's a lot more like noob players who are just like, yay, Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly.
But on the other hand, it also lets players get closer to the pro scene and experience the high level gameplay type of stuff faster. So you don't have to deal with like as much stuff as like the runes like in League of Legends. I mean, yeah, there are the emblems, but that's relatively easy to accumulate the right ones. Like there's 4 sets that you need and you're pretty much set. Items, you just level them up and eventually you'll get them to max level. And if you've been playing Unite long enough, you can get max level on everything in, let's say, relatively quick amount of time. Some people complain it's pay to win, but it's more like pay to progress faster.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that the Mega Lucario is pay to win for now. But other than that, I think Pokemon Art is a really solid game. Like you said, there's no items to buy. It's very easy to understand. But to come to the understanding is where you watch streamers, ask questions. Like I'm telling you, you can literally go to one pro player's stream and ask him questions. Like not too many questions, but I feel like pro players are very urge to like help people in the competitive scene in Unite. So when you have a question about something that is not too long, you can literally just ask them. And again, like I don't think people get too much coaching because of the ego. They don't think they need it. Well, obviously they don't have the funds. And I think people underestimate how much you can improve by playing ladder and analyzing your gameplay.
Yeah,
In that first year, I literally so I had like a social year. So every time I had nothing to do in my social year, I was literally sitting there watching my VOD.
Yeah, I was actually gonna ask, like, how often do you go back to watch your VODs? Like after every match, or only when you had like a specific match that you want to review? Like, is it once per day, twice per day? How often are you reviewing?
So my review style is a little bit different. When I stream, and I like to stream while educating people, if I'm getting annoyed by a specific early game, mid game to late game, I will just look at the late game, early game. I just look at parts of like bits by bits. So obviously it's gonna be a bit harder for new players. You have to watch a lot more your gameplay to understand more. But again, if you're getting coached, you can set goals like focus only on the early game for this week. For next week, you're gonna step by step process.
Yeah.
But people wanna do too much.
I got a little bit of coaching as well. And like when I was reviewing the VODs with the coach, he was pointing out things that I was doing, like mistakes that I was making. And to be honest, before he would even say any of this kind of stuff, I would usually notice it. But it's I guess similar to my English coaching. It's good to get the validation that is the mistake I'm making and this is how I should be improving, which is why people take English coaching with me, because they want to understand what exactly it is that they're making mistakes on and what the correct solution would be in that specific moment. Because yeah, maybe streamers and pro players can give tips and advice, but a lot of it is like very low level tips, you know, like it's like me telling someone like, make sure you enunciate well when you speak English, or make sure you make these sounds. Sure, it helps, but having like a specific like targeted advice is what's going to help you improve faster, because that low level advice, it can help, but it's not going to be a game changer. And that's really the struggle, because people don't really find that kind of solution very easily. Either you have to get coaching, you have to get someone else to review your VODs, and obviously that takes time, and well, time is limited.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's actually one of the things I've been really focusing on as much as possible, is to review my VODs, especially in those like games where I knew that like they were definitely winnable, and then maybe I made one small mistake or something like that. And like after the match, I usually know the mistake I made, but when I review the VODs, it's really obvious. It's like it slaps me in the face.
Yeah, you know, it's like a really repetitive game, so you can like replicate a lot of things. The key factor to know how to be a pro player or competitive player in Unite is just to adapt to every situation that is giving you, because you're gonna get slapped in the face by different situations. One scenario is not gonna be the same as the other scenario, but the concept is the same. So when you go to the lane, you farm, and you have like a circle, like a triangle, and then like another triangle, because the farm is spawning, right? Knowing the timers, knowing how swabbles work. People back in the day didn't know how swabble timers work. I played Pokemon Unite for almost 2 years, not knowing how swabble timers work. The moment I realized, because like when Toon joined and stuff, I got more information, and then I knew how swabble timers work. So swabble timers are a good thing for Pokemon Unite to focus on. So when the swabble spawn at 4:45, you know the next thing that you are focusing on. Every time I coach someone, I say between the minute at 5:50 and 4:50, there's no objective, because top objective and bottom objective are gone. People don't know what to do, so people start griefing. You will see it all the time in solo queue.
Yeah.
And these are like these timers are the most important thing in Unite, to realize that you are griefing by not knowing what you want to do. Focusing on middle swabble spawning, top lane swabble spawning. This is like a repetitive thing that you can practice, but if you don't know when swabble timers spawn, you're just gonna be lost, and then you don't know what to do. Either you stay on the pad, or you invent the enemy jungler in an unconventional time where nothing spawns, and then you get catched off guard. Like
Yeah.
you said, you don't want to die too much.
Yeah. I think positioning is huge in this game and in any mobile game, really. And the benefit with Pokemon Unite is that the map is actually quite small, so you're not spending as much time running around, which is actually something I really didn't like about League of Legends and Wild Rift.
Yeah.
Like, I was watching my VODs on Wild Rift, and I was just like, half of it was me just walking around. I was like, this is actually quite boring. But in Unite, it's quite different. You can anticipate and understand where you will need to be in the future, and that I think is one of the hugest things that you can do to improve. Because if you know that the middle Swablues or whatever are going to spawn in 10 seconds, then you should already be moving in that direction so that you can immediately be there to take it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think the Chinese version of Unite has timers on all the spawns, and I don't understand why they don't have it on this version, because that's just it's such a nice thing to have, you know.
I think it makes it more fun since Unite is such a like slow game. I mean, like not slow game, fast game. If you have all the timers on your screen, first I'm gonna get dizzy, and second it's gonna be not effective for the people that know that, right? People abuse that you don't know the timers or you're not getting ready. So this is, I think, one part that I like about Unite. I like that the Ready Drago is indicating when it's spawning. This is like a good change, but I wouldn't like it if they show when the Swablues are spawning, because I believe that you knowing that obviously it's gonna be hard step-by-step process. Knowing when Swablues spawn, it can be a 1 week priority. I learned when Swablues spawn for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. And how does it work exactly? So after you take the spawn, how long does it take until it respawns? Because it depends on when you take the spawn, right?
So 1 minute and 30 seconds. So each time on top and bot lane there's a set time, 720, like you know that 850, 720, 550, 420, 250, and then 120. But when it goes on breaks, sometimes it will spawn on the right side. So that means sometimes it spawns at like 6:15 and stuff. But this is gonna be like too long to explain.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a YouTube video about that, but people just need to know when Swablu timers spawn. This is like one major thing.
Like Pokemon Unite actually put out an official post on their website that showed exactly when everything was spawning. If you didn't know that, like when the game first came out, they put like a post that showed exactly when everything is spawning. And I was like actually quite surprised, because I was like, really? Like, tells you when everything is spawning. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. So I think understanding the spawn timers is huge. But you know what you said about ego, I think, is something that a lot of people struggle with, and I think this is also something that maybe young people might struggle with more, because I think as you get older, you have to kind of come to face your ego in certain ways, in more situations, and like if you're not good enough with certain things, or if you fail, which actually I think is what Unite is really good at, because it forces you to confront failure quite often. Like having a 55% win rate is actually okay. Having a 60% win rate is crazy. I was listening to a podcast today or yesterday, and it was talking about a professional tennis player. I think it was Federer, actually. And he said that he has a 58% win rate or something like that in his tennis matches. And I was like, that's actually quite similar to my Unite win rate. Does that mean I'm good?
Yeah, I get that. Like, back in the day, it was crazy. Like, in Pokemon Unite back in the day was all about win rates. If you didn't have a 70% win rate or 80% win, people wouldn't play with you.
Yeah, but that's stupid.
It was so stupid back in the day. Nowadays, people don't care. But if you have a 49% win rate, you're a bit sus.
Yeah. See, the thing is, I think it's really bad, because like I have this strategy. Maybe you have something similar, where like when a new season starts, because of the way the ranking system works, you're punished less when you're at a lower rank for losing a match. And so what I do is I experiment with different strategies, different Pokemon, different builds, and then as I rank up, I play stuff that I'm more comfortable and more familiar with. So what that means is when a new season starts, I'm much more likely to lose matches because I'm experimenting and stuff like that. Do you also do something like that?
I don't really care about win rate anymore. I used to be, it's like part of the ego. I used to really like having 100% win rate, not losing a single game, getting master. So I got very annoyed when I lost. And then I started realizing it's like really childish. because obviously it's nice to have win rate, it's nice, but it's not League of Legends. Like there's a big comparison between League of Legends and Unite, where League of Legends, like there's more value in having a win rate than in Pokemon Unite. In Pokemon Unite, to get to the competitive scene, all you have to do is make a name for yourself by playing well. So win rates don't really matter. However, if you are fine with that, I want to go with the ego part a bit more. Ego is really important to improve and to get better and to get better. However, when your ego is at the highest point, what I really don't like is people that are mid that have high ego. It makes no sense in my head. If you are mid and you have a high ego, nobody will like you. If you are like, sadly, this is how competitive works. If you are really good and you have a high ego, people will still like you even though you have a big ego, because you have accomplishments you can go back on. Obviously, this is not the best case scenario for people that want to play with a good environment. However, when you are not in the highest level, or at least a top 8, I feel like you should not have a big ego. Obviously, you can be proud of yourself, which is fine to improve, but stay humble until you get to a point where you can say, I'm good.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of people think they are good because they are beating solo queue players. Like, not how it works.
Yeah, no, and I mean the matchmaking system is designed to keep people playing, and so if you understand how it works, then you'll understand that like losing is actually inevitable. If you have a win streak, it's gonna just match you with against better and better and better players and worse allies, and which actually is a compliment, because if you have terrible allies and a really good enemy team, that means the matchmaking system thinks you're playing really well. So you should take it as a compliment more than anything, and as a challenge. I think actually that's something that some of the best players are able to do, is not just in Unite, but in any competitive thing, where you can still compete and win regardless of the circumstances, regardless of anything else that's going against you, regardless if you're tired, regardless if you're hungry, regardless if you have a terrible team. You still try, and you still try your best. And this is something that I think has to be said with Unite, because there are so many players that get tilted so easily in this game. Oh my god. I swear. Even pro players, man. Like, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but I played a match in some in-houses, and we were doing really well throughout the game. And then near the end, right before Ray spawned, the team decimated us, but somehow I still got Ray. But one of our teammates got tilted and just went AFK. And because I secured Ray, I was very lucky, to be honest.
Yeah.
We could have won. But because he went AFK, we lost.
This is what I don't understand. Pokemon is a 10-minute game. Like, in 10 minutes, you can try your best as much as you can. Obviously, you can get tilted, but it's just something you have to improve on yourself and recognize. Like, what is really important is to recognize when 4 people tell you that you are a problem, that you should realize that you are a problem. And if you don't realize it, people will not start playing with you.
Yeah, it's like that kind of situation where if you're constantly like getting dumped, and you know your girlfriends are breaking up with you, and it's the same reason, and they keep saying it's you, maybe it's a you problem.
Yeah, it's like 2023 was like one of my worst years because I had a big ego problem. I reached second place at the World Championship in 2022, and then I was so high on my ego that my ego made me hinder my progress. And over the years, I learned that ego is not everything. Ego is something good to improve on, because if you don't have ego and competitive, you might be in the wrong place. You can be humble and good, but most of the time people with high ego succeed in competitive because they like to be better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so for example, I really wanted to be a best top laner.
Yeah, I think there's a balance there as well, because I think to some extent you gotta also like have an ego, because you gotta believe in yourself. Yeah. But on the other hand, you can't be too much full of yourself, because then, like you said, it hinders your ability to grow and to progress. So what is it that made you kind of break that loop and look at yourself more critically?
I think the moment when I realized that I used to be a captain and then my team didn't want to play with me, or after the World Championship we disbanded. This is like a hit me in the face, I am alone moment. So in that like 3 months, I really had to rehabilitate and stuff to realize that I was one of like a few problems, and then I had to improve myself to be back again, because people were really skeptical about me after 2023, because they had the rumors, they were scared of playing with me, and now people are more open because you always need to progress and always need to improve and just change the way you work.
Yeah. The thing is, like, overcoming the ego issue is like something that's like super difficult. Like, even if you do recognize you have an issue with your ego, being able to overcome it requires so much self-development, introspective reflection, and I don't know, this kind of stuff. They say like psychedelic experiences can kind of dissolve the ego and help with that kind of thing. So who knows, maybe that can help. But it depends where you are located, where it might be or it might not be legal. Because I know there are a good handful of players from, I don't know, the Netherlands, and over there the situation is very different.
Yeah, because it's like there's not a lot of sun, and then you get like depressed easily.
Yeah,
it's very different.
Yeah. So do you think the ego issue is like one of the biggest issues or one of the biggest challenges when it comes to the pro players? Or do you think there's something else that's really the biggest challenge for pro players to win?
I think the problem is people hate each other. People in you make teams with people they don't like, but they only make the teams because they know that they can succeed. This is like the veteran aspect about Unite that destroys new players to come. Because every mobile player has gatekeep. And in Unite there's also a gatekeep system where better, like worse players will not get chosen over other players because they had experience, non-experience, etc. And then you come up with a team that you don't even like. Like you just don't like each other. And this happens every single year in Europe. So this is like a little bit sad. It happens in other regions as well. And I don't know how to fix it, because people will just choose better people over better people. But like people still wait for my team to be announced. But I will be making a team. I obviously like my Nouns Esports a lot. We were really strong, we were bonding, but we also had personal issues with each other. So when I'm trying to make a team now, I'm going to focus on getting people that I like. But this is the problem. I have the privilege because I have the success and the range to get the people I want to play with. While, for example, like you said, you have unconventional gameplay. All of a sudden, you are forced to play with people you don't like to play with, because your people, like your friend group, is not good enough. And this is the sad truth about professional.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point that you bring up. There's like a lack of like a pathway for players to find a good team, because the pipeline to develop yourself and to find a good team is, I think, really the weak point in this kind of situation. Because like this Discord group that I'm part of, it's nice and it's good because I've been playing with people and I've been able to understand their playstyle, connect with them. Like in that situation that I mentioned earlier about the player who tilted, I didn't rage quit or yell at him or anything after that, but I think it actually brought us closer, because he realized that I had the patience to not rage quit and chew him out for doing that. And I didn't hate him, I just understood him, because I definitely played bad and I made a bad choice, which is why he rage quit. But it also taught me a lot, or it teaches players a lot about having patience and just keeping calm, because sure, you don't always get placed on the best team, but that's why I think there has to be a better strategy, a better system, like a better pipeline to finding a team that you can vibe with, that you can play really well with. So apart from, doing scrims and doing matches with your team, do you guys do like stuff to help you connect and understand each other better outside of Unite, like team building activities or something like that?
Yeah, I know it sounds funny, right? But it's really not funny. Like, people, like my team had struggles with internal issues, like I said. We started playing a different game, do you know Repo? It's like a survival game, like horror game. We just started playing Repo as 6 people in our team, having fun. Team building experience is really important for the team, especially if you are only focused on competing with the team. I highly believe that having other games to play or experience, like playing duo queue, etc., is a team bonding experience that is very important to create synergy. Because if you only play as 5 people every time and not play with your team solo queue, duo queue, trio queue, with each other, then it doesn't really feel like a team. So I think it is very hard for people to understand that when you make the choice to be a competitive player, you also need to make the choice what you want with your team. If you don't have the same goal, it's not gonna work. For example, one team can have the goal to just play for fun and have a good time. One team, if one person of the team wants to compete to be the highest level, I don't think he should be in the team because this is not what his priority is. Set up your priorities, set limitations, set regulations to get into a same point, to understand that you want to compete to be in a better tournament and to be recognized, to be stronger, to be better.
Yeah.
So if you play with your friend group who don't want to do that and don't want to improve, and they want to improve but they don't showcase it, it's the harsh reality, but you should look for better people. This
Yeah,
is like what I realized. I really had like the luck of being with my friends in the first year and creating a team and having success. But like we said, there's so many people with dreams that will get destroyed.
Yeah, it comes down to it's really like there's like this effect in real life as well. Like you are the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So if you want to, move up and be next level with your gameplay, you got to also surround yourself with people who have a similar like goal, similar ambitions, and you got to align yourself with the right kind of people. And that's just an unfortunate reality. There's actually a term that I use to describe this is where you have to trim the weeds, where you have to where you have to replace them with someone better. And in real life, what I say to kind of describe this is like you gotta always be meeting new people, because when you come across a moment where you realize that this person might be holding you back from developing yourself as a person, you got to make the uncomfortable choice to stop spending time with them as much and spend more time with other people that align better with your personal goals and stuff like that. And I think that applies in Unite as well. You got to always have like a pipeline where you're meeting players, playing with them, understanding their synergy, so that you can find the right players to vibe with, let's say. But one of the challenges I think I was talking to Niha about this as a pro player is mind games, which until you become pro, until you actually compete in tournaments, you probably don't experience mind games. And I wanted to ask you, like, when it comes to the tournament settings, is that something that people do a lot? And how do you go about managing that?
Yeah, if you mean mind games in terms of predicting enemies' movement, then it's about studying the enemies, studying the tournaments that they are playing. That's one of the reasons one of my teammates didn't like if I stream our games with comms on, because he didn't want people to see what we are doing, to develop a strategy to do a mind game.
Yeah,
For example, like
not necessarily that.
and
Like, people will see your playstyle. I mean, like, before the match, after the match, online, shit talking each other on social media.
Or you mean like mind games in terms of getting into people's heads?
Exactly. Like you've probably seen this in boxing, where like when the boxers when they have to like go up next to each other after the weigh-in and they have to look each other in the eyes, maybe they say something really mean to get into their head, Does that happen in Unite tournaments?
I don't think it happens too much in Unite. I think the more like your mind is like when I played with a team, people got scared of playing against us. Like in a sense, it's like a mind game where people have a fear factor of playing against Nouns Esports because it's the best team in Europe. Like this is more like how Unite works, I would say. When I play against a better team, I will be more cautious, more have like a feeling of being my mind is not focused as well, because I don't. Normally, you should respect every team the equal way, but you can't stop doing that. So, in a sense, to answer your question, I don't think it happens a lot in Unite. It happens only to a few people that are at the lower level, I guess, because they don't understand that, like, when you insult me, it doesn't really matter. I have my team, I will try my best. But it does happen, I think, in the lower competitive scene in Unite. In the higher competitive scene, it does happen sometimes. But I feel like, for me at least, when I see Potato or any other name that I recognize, I will be playing differently. Even though I don't want to, I will be playing differently.
It's a subconscious thing.
Yeah. However, I tried changing it by turning off the names, which is one of the best changes I could have done. An example would be I lost against Onyx Rice, which is a big team, 2 times in the World Championship. They kicked me out 2 times. The third time in the World Championship, I started developing like a fear I don't want to play against them. I want to beat them so much, like have a motivation to beat them. And then the one scrim in the boot camp, my team didn't tell me who I play against. I didn't know it because people in like competitive, they make small accounts and change the names.
Yeah.
And I was actually playing against Onyx Rice and destroying them. And I was like, oh, I played against Onyx Rice and I destroyed them in the scrim. And I didn't know it. If I knew it beforehand, I would have probably played differently. If that answers your question.
Maybe in that case, they should have revealed themselves to you. Because when I was talking to Niha about this, he says like in a tournament setting, sometimes you have to wait in between matches or whatever, and you go backstage, and then maybe you can actually talk to the enemy team. And I feel like that would be a missed opportunity to not play some mind games with them and get under their skin, get in their head, and I don't know, say something where they, in their subconscious mind, might start doubting themselves. I mean, this happens with every high-level competitive thing, like high-level chess tournaments and high-level boxing. Like people play mind games all the time. And I think that's another layer to the competitive scene that maybe some people don't really think about.
Yeah, and it's not really the case, I think. Like, all the teams I play against, this is a really friendly environment, competitive game. I don't think people do that. Like, it's cringe, first of all, but I get you. Like, if you want to win, you do everything, every tool that you have to win, but people will not go up to you and be like, I'm going to beat you up and stuff. It's more like a friendly thing to do. For example, against Brazil, we walked up to them and said like something as a fun joke, but like I don't think is like quite small, and people know each other in the competitive scene, especially in the higher competitive. So we don't really do that, no.
I see. So another thing I wanted to ask about is like, what about like not Unite related stuff that we can do to help with our gameplay? Because when I was talking to Nihat, one of the stuff like he does for his job, he does sales. And I was talking to him about how sales is actually, it can kind of align with Unite, because sales as a job I also do some sales. It's like one of the things where you have to be competitive by nature, because you have to close the deals, you have to make the sale. Do you think there's other things outside of Unite that kind of transfer well into the competitive scene?
Yeah, for sure. When I started my university, I learned more about the human social interaction, since I'm studying social work, and I realized that a lot of the things that I was doing, I should have not been doing as a professional, in the sense of there's a difference between professionalism and friendship. And I always wanted to bond friendship with professionalism, which is a really hard thing to do, because when you play competitive, you're like professionally, like so competitively is like friendship, and professionalism is a job. So it's really hard to accept the fact that you are doing a job for a living, or a job not as a hobby anymore. Like your hobby is your job basically. So you have to like learn the difference between this. Okay, we can be friends, you can make a joke, but the joke is not funny because I want to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's an important distinction that we have to make. And a lot of people underestimate like the human dynamic aspects. And honestly, this is something that kind of grinds my gears as well, because after doing a lot of in-houses and stuff like that, I get this vibe where people are like choosing people because they are the most popular. And it's almost like a popularity contest, like in high school or in elementary school. I'm just like
100%. So,
yeah, it's quite frustrating. But like you said, maybe if I get good enough, it doesn't matter. But, that takes a lot of practice and a lot of skill. So from your perspective, what do you think it is that's holding you back at your current stage from being number one?
I am really into having friendship and team dynamic. And I think one of the problems we were facing with Nouns was that we had a lot of internal issues. Even though we were really good and we grew together as a team, I had like personal fears, personal issues, personal pressure. And this is like something I said again. When I will create my team and announce it, it's going to be a team I think I can grow a friendship with. It's like a childish way of thinking in professionalism, but I want to have a like team where I can have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Build a friendship and have a strong team bond. I just don't think that the team bond was as strong, even though I like boot camps are really enjoyable. Like boot camps are really fun. It's one of the best experience as a player to have, because if you have with the right people, it's just gonna be really fun. However, in the game, you have to trust each other and make decisions together. So if you hesitate because someone else doesn't trust you or thinks you are wrong and you're not on the same page, it's a problem. And
Yeah.
this is pretty much how we lost in the World Championship. At the end, no one of us was able to make a decision to go into the ray pit and either fight or flip the ray. But Algier did flip the ray instantly.
Yeah,
They were on
yeah.
the same point and just won the game. And this is basically
I remember watching that match actually, and I was watching that exact moment. And I was thinking to myself, it makes sense what you guys were doing because they were playing score comp, and you wanted to make sure they didn't back cap near the end of the game. But you left Ray wide open for them to flip, and then even though some of your team members went in to try to secure it, obviously it's unlikely.
Yeah. So like it's always about like being adaptive and realizing the moment, and just in that moment, nobody was able to make the call because of pressure. Pressure is also another thing. So I wanna like try to make a team where I have a strong team bond, but also be in a high level. And in my previous team, we were in a really high level and they had a good team bond, but not a strong team bond. So it's just hard to.
I think some of it also has to do with the fact that you're in a different environment. You know, like you mentioned that these tournaments take place in the morning. So if you don't practice playing in the morning, you might be in a different mindset, and maybe you play differently. Maybe you communicate differently. Maybe, you know, it's a different factors. And I think this is something I see some parallels with my English coaching, because one of the strategies in order to improve your English is to put yourself in these environments where you simulate the situation that you want to improve on. And one of the best things you can do is put yourself up on a stage and do the exact thing that you're most afraid of doing, which is speaking. And I think that's the problem with Unite is you're up on the stage, everyone's watching you, there's that pressure, you know, everyone is looking at you and they're going to see if you mess up. And you know, it's just part of the human experience that we don't want to fail in front of our tribe, so to speak. So that's why I think like anytime that you end up on a stage and you don't have experience with being up on a stage, you're going to play differently, and that kind of stuff is going to happen. But where can we get practice being up on a stage in front of everyone to do this kind of thing, you know?
It's a bit hard, yeah. For United, it's like kind of impossible, except for like the French LAN events. But again, it costs money.
Yep.
I would say like how I got better at this sphere is I'm a gamer that logs in. Like when I see my screen, I think about nothing else than my team and the game.
Yeah, you get in a flow state.
It's like a habit. It's like the flow state. Like I literally only look at my screen, and everything around me will not affect me. Because I'm just so focused about the game. That's why I think it's really good to develop good habits, because like you said, you're gonna have pressure, and in the competitive scene in esports, it's like if you have a good game or the early game is going well, you're gonna have a good game, like on stage. If the early game goes bad, you will be pressured. So this is like something. If you have a good early game, the game state is gonna go well.
Yeah. It's also kind of similar. Another parallel that I can kind of tie it to is like I used to be in a professional dance group, and obviously we would practice a lot. But when we would actually perform in front of the stage, or if there was like a TV crew with a camera broadcasting everywhere, it was a whole different situation. But one thing I learned is that, you have to lock in, you have to get into this flow state, and you just don't even think about it anymore. And I think this comes down to like a mindset that we can adopt, because I think when it comes to getting really good at something, there's two mindsets that we can have: a training mindset and a competing mindset. Do you know what I mean by that?
100%. Like there's a difference between being like playing scrims and playing competitively. If you don't play tournaments to practice, you're gonna realize that even though the scrims went well, in a tournament it's gonna be entirely different, because you're gonna be put in a different scenario. So one problem that a lot of United players have, and it's just hard, right? You need to have a reach to say that people don't take scrims serious. They play it and they're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have fun. But scrims are for practicing, and the stuff that happens in scrims will happen in the tournaments if you don't practice enough. So this is something you see a lot, that like small things like you're inting like that minute will happen in the tournament because you don't take the value of learning to respect that scrims. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your teammates' time, so make it productive by having a goal. And if you don't have a goal when you're scrimming, it's pointless. It's literally pointless.
Yeah. This is something that I noticed as well. Some players don't take it seriously, and it really frustrates me. Like, for example, in some of the in-house matches, I get put on a team where it's like 4 people who prefer to speak French, and they just end up speaking French on the comms. And I'm just like, what the heck? Like, I can't communicate with, I mean, they can understand me, but I don't understand anything they're saying.
Yeah.
And so when they're telling me not to score because they don't want to break the goal or something, I'm like, what? And then I score.
Yeah, it's really hard. Like, especially for United, so many young people, first mobile game, they just don't understand the concept that taking scrims seriously is really important. You are playing scrims for 1 hour and a half or 2 hours to do the best you can so you can learn from the VOD review. If you don't take the scrim seriously and we VOD review the same thing over and over and over, you're wasting everyone's time. It's a team game. It's not a solo game.
Yeah, exactly. It comes down to having that like synergy and that vibe with your team, and which comes back down to having like a good pipeline of people that you can find a good team with. And again, that comes down to my struggle that I currently face. And I'm hoping, actually, this is one of the reasons I started doing this podcast, is to put myself out there more, to learn from players that are better than me, like you, or at least have more experience. Because I like to think that I'm good.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
I want to believe. But yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that people don't really talk about when it comes to getting good at Unite, because people really underestimate the kind of stuff that you can do outside of the game to help improve your game. Like, I was talking to Yashi, who organized a fight club, and one of the things that he does before every tournament is he goes swimming or he exercises. And I think that's huge. If you don't do that now, I highly recommend doing it, because after exercising, you have more oxygen in your brain, you get more blood flowing throughout your body. Everything just processes faster and more efficiently. And honestly, it's one of the most underrated things that we can do. And it's, it's just part of the human experience. Like, there's science that shows that it helps, not just with, competitive stuff, but with work. And there's a lot of parallels with how you perform at work or study in school and how you compete in Pokemon Unite, which is why I think I've noticed that I play better in the middle of the day rather than in the evening. And I think part of it is also that willpower. Something a lot of people don't think about also is like, your willpower is like it drains over the course of the day. And if you're playing in the evening when your willpower is low because you have low energy, or you're tired, or you've used it making a ton of decisions throughout the day, you're not going to make good decisions in your matches. And that's really a big struggle, because like, making good decisions depends on so many different factors that happen in the game, and you have to consider all these factors in a very short period of time. So you can't just take advice like, have this build or play like this or don't break the goal, or none of it really matters, because when you make these kind of game deciding decisions, you got to consider all these factors. So you got to be in this mind state where you're not acting on your subconscious, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. I think this is like something that is really important, that I didn't realize for so long when I played, and I felt so stupid after realizing it, that you're doing stuff subconsciously because you are in this environment for so long. But when you realize that you can do stuff not subconsciously, but because you're realizing it, like having meditation type of things, like breathing exercises before a tournament, etc. If you're doing that in advance, it's always good. And this is also the part of Unite, predicting, being in the right place when you need it, when you need to be. You're doing it subconsciously, but after you're learning to use your subconscious in the real time, it's going to be like you're predicting the future.
Yeah,
pretty much.
That's why I think it's good to not be like an OTP and play at least one more role, because when you play a specific role for a very long time, you end up developing a certain play style. Maybe you play more aggressively, or maybe you play more defensively. And I realized I made this mistake because sometimes I choose an all-rounder and I end up going back to base and defending the base, when instead I should have been playing more aggressively because my team needed me to help them, score some points or whatever. And I was a damage dealer. But because I played defender so much, I subconsciously made the decision to go back to the base and defend. And afterwards, I was like, shit, that lost us the game.
Yeah, you can see that in the Asia teams. So on the European teams, the top laners, even though they're super strong, they will stay top lane to protect the goal zone. While you see in the Asian teams, they play more as 5, they play more on the map control, more pressure, because they know that they can use their strong top laner to make something happen. Even if the top laner scores 40 points, you're gonna score 120 points in exchange because the top laner didn't realize that the other top laner rotated. But I see it a bit differently with the roles in Unite. Top lane has a role, jungle has a role, bot lane has a role, everyone has a role. So I see it a bit differently. When you play top lane, you have a specific playstyle that you can develop throughout the competitive scene, the competitive experience. But this is something you learn from coaching. Obviously, we can't talk about this in such a short time. But the other roles play more together as a team. The top laner is like by himself most of the time, while the other people are a four-man team that play as 4. So like jungle, attacker, support, defender, they always like to play as 4 together, while the top laner is doing a 1v1, or the jungler does the 1v1 and the top laner plays with the team. So I think it's a bit different with the Unite scene.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's kind of similar to how in League of Legends you had the bruiser in the top lane, who would be like top lane in Unite, where you kind of do stuff and by yourself.
You're on your own.
Yeah, you're mostly on your own. That was the role I mostly like to play because of that reason. So, what do you think are some of the sacrifices that pro players need to make in order to really get up to the top level of play? Because, I think one of the things that we are defined by is not just what we make or the decisions that we make, and what we do, but also what we give up as well in order to get that.
I think like it depends always on the player, but I think adaptability. I don't know how to spell it.
Adaptability.
Adaptability, sorry. That's the lessons.
There you go, free lesson.
So when you don't adapt to your team and to your team wishes, then you will always face criticism. You're gonna have an ego. You're gonna have a problem with your team because you don't like how your support is playing. You don't like how your jungler is playing. So you will criticize what he's doing. But when you criticize it, you need to have a reason why you're criticizing it, so it's reasonable for the opposite side. And if someone criticizes you and it's reasonable and you don't accept it or you don't adapt to it, you will not be able to play with everyone. Like I said earlier, I didn't think I can play with anyone. I thought I can only play with specific players that meets my wishes, but then I understand I'm not in a point where I can demand stuff. I am not in a point where I'm the best player in my team and I can say, let's play the way I want to play the game, but also at the same time, when you demand stuff, you also need to find how do you describe it, like a middle part, like an agreement,
like a balance.
Example. Yeah, a balance. So we see that a lot with Nachos. Nachos is such a great player, and everyone follows him. And for some reason, the team works, even though only Nachos talks or Nachos plays, because he has such a strong personality and player that people build playstyles around a specific player. There's something that can work.
Yeah, I played a few matches with Nachos, and to be honest, I'm very bad with names and keeping track with who's who. So, which I think is actually good for me because I think maybe it doesn't affect me on a subconscious level, like how it might have affected you that one time when you played against that one team.
Just turn off the names.
And he was on my team and he was playing top lane, I think. And I was like, man, this player's pretty good. Who is this guy? And it was kind of funny because I was just like, I had no idea who's who, and I was just like, oh, this guy's pretty good. He's reliable. And the funny thing was that I think in that specific match, his mic was off for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I realized like people were playing around him like a lot, and they were
even if he doesn't talk, it's like how it works. Like some people have specific aura that they like spread, and this, like you said, the carry players that shine a bit more. because the support and defender role's job is to enable carry players.
Yeah, yeah. But there's something that really frustrates me in that situation, because playing mostly defenders, I see so many opportunities to make a big impact on the game. But what happens is, if I'm playing with someone that is really insistent that they, as the attacker, get all the experience and level up and have the advantage or whatever, you miss out on some of these opportunities. Like after this new map change to Groudon, I started playing more Lapras with Score Shield and with the stacking glasses.
Yeah.
Because in this new map, it makes much more sense. I think Score Shield has more value, and there's a few new strategies that we can implement. But when I played some in-houses with some players, they insisted that I could just go completely defensive items. I'm like, well, you're missing out on a lot of potential, because Lapras actually can backcap near the end of the match, and it can ultimate and quickly be in the team fight, And some of the players were questioning me, like, what's with the Score Shield?
Yeah, it's like unconventional stuff that makes a problem a problem. This is like how a problem works.
Yeah.
They see that you are not in the bubble and then you are trying unconventional stuff. Reasoning is, if you play Score Shield, you will lose on a lot of damage, or other things like Resonant Guard. Resonant Guard is better for the early game for your attacker. Choice Picks makes your secure stuff more better. So your unconventional thing makes them question what are you actually doing?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? If I were to hear that, I wouldn't like the stacking glasses. I don't think they are good for Lapras, especially because I don't think you should be a carrier. I think you should be like playing Focus Band, Expedia, plus another item. And this could be Score Shield. And then Score Shield could be I said, okay, sure, you have Score Shield. If you show me that you can score 20 points during a game, like multiple times, I like it. I also like the idea of the end game strategy. But this is where I come in part with my coaching. I would say, don't listen to them. I actually don't listen to them. Try it. If you don't like it, if they don't like it, if you don't feel like it's right, you need to showcase that it's working. If it doesn't work, adaptability. Change the item and try it differently again.
Well, there's like a catch-22. This is what I noticed when I was playing Mewtwo X and XP Share. When people see my build, they play differently. And then they blame the loss of the game on the build. But I think part of it is also the fact that they played differently because they saw the build. So, like, it's hard to really identify what the issue really is. And I've been experimenting a lot with this kind of stuff. At least in ladder, I've been experimenting with Lapras a lot and the different builds, and I noticed it's just so much more impactful when you actually can also do damage. Like, then the squishy players are scared of you, they run away, and it's like that meme where, like, the best defender is the one that kills their attacker.
So I think like one problem that people are facing, especially for defenders that wanna play carries, because they saw Japanese people play special attackers, so the defenders can shine a bit more, is that it's not how it works. Like, you need to understand why they are doing it. They're doing it because of a specific reason, because of a specific matchup, and because people try to be copycats, it doesn't work, people get frustrated. So if your Mew needs to be like attacker damage, because the enemy composition is like, we don't have too much damage in our team composition, when you play non-Expedia, it's gonna be griefing, because Mew is gonna be really bad. But if Mew can play around your team, and your team doesn't need as much damage because you already have 3 carry players, then it's fine. So recognizing that is going to be important. I think something that I had with you in the talk is, I think when you want to be better, I would recommend you to drop the Expedias and just play top lane or play defender and decide on a role, because this is not how you're going to step up your gameplay. This is the part about adaptability. You cannot play top lane and also Expedia in the current environment of Unite, other than you making your own team and making it work. Because even though I say it, I could also just be a top laner that plays Expedia bottle, all of a sudden you say, hey, you said otherwise. But if you want to be step up and you ask me the question about adaptability, then you have to make the sacrifice by yourself to choose a role. Play defender or top lane if you want to be getting higher in the competitive scene. And it's also for everyone, not just for you. You're the example, but you have to choose a role. And I also think that you should not be able to, it's fine to play multiple roles, but in Unite, especially for younger people, that's first move, blah, 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 play only one role and exceed in this role, accelerate in the role, and if you can't change the role, try something different. But don't try two roles at the same time. It's not gonna work.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the mistake a lot of players make. They like take this advice, but they don't take into account the other factors, like you mentioned, like the team comp that your team has, or the team comp that your enemy has. You got to counter pick and play around that kind of stuff. That's why, like I said before, like the reason I ended up going Mewtwo XP share was because we didn't have two XP shares and we didn't have an all rounder. So it kind of filled that gap. And it's all situational, and that's really the problem, because there's so many situational things that giving like low level advice, like don't do this all the time, I want to listen, but on the other hand, you don't know all the factors, you don't know the situation either, and people want to be helpful, they want to help each other and all that, but I think you also have to be able to take everything with a grain of salt. And in order to really understand what works is to just repetition, like keep trying it, test it out, see if it works. And if it works, it works, like there are plenty of comps that I saw in tournaments that were unconventional or different, let's just say, just different, not even unconventional. And they worked, like you guys lost against a score comp, which was unheard of before. Score comp was not a thing.
So yeah, this is just the thing, like ignore people's things and make it work. And if it doesn't work, you have to adapt. Because if you don't adapt, then it's going to be annoying. So if you think it's going to work in the in-houses, you want to try it in solo queue and see how it feels. Then you try it like 1 or 2 times. If it doesn't work, you're going to not drop it, but try to adapt so your teammate's going to be happy. One problem as well is when you play everywhere, exactly, like if your carry is inting, just let him die. Like honestly, like it's like something that is like so simple, but if your carry is inting and you're a defender, if you die with them, it's gonna be even worse. Then you need to find like a middle space between helping your teammate because it's reasonable and then not just saying bye. Like I have my own stuff to do.
Yeah. It's a delicate situation because it comes down to like the human aspect. Like if you say certain things to certain people, they'll take it personally and then they'll int even more. And it's not really the best.
This is like the hardest part. I don't really know how to like help people when they come to me to ask me this, because people respect me a lot, right? Even if I insult them, they will appreciate it because they think that I see something that they can improve on. So it's a little bit hard to like describe how this feeling is. At least in the past, I just felt like I'm going for my own stuff. If it doesn't work, I'm gonna try to adapt.
Yeah.
And if I don't like the adaptability, then I have to question myself: what do I even want? Why do I even play the game?
Yeah.
And if my goal is to succeed and play well, then I'm just gonna join a team that I don't like as much and adapt to learn from them. And then maybe in the future, I'm gonna join a different team.
Yeah, I think maybe that's what I need to try. It's just to make my own team where we only cook.
Yeah.
No, but I think like you said, like I also adapt to the other teams and see how they play, what they prefer, and all that kind of stuff, because those are, let's say, less risky strategies or more conventional that people are gonna know and be familiar with. And we have to take into account like the mental part of these players, because if we don't, they're gonna get tilted, they're gonna end, and then they're gonna lose anyway, even if the strategy could work.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So I do have another meeting that's kind of coming up soon, and I would love to continue talking. I still have a bunch of questions, but I wanted to just start wrapping this up and I guess say our last words. But I wanted to see if you had like any questions that you haven't had the chance to ask.
I think I already asked all the questions. Like, it's very nice to meet you. It was a very fun podcast. I also hope that people will learn from some of the advice I was giving, especially for younger people or for people who just want to start competing and have the same struggles as you. So for me, it was a nice experience to know like what your situation is, because I got to know you a bit better and to know a bit better what people struggle with. And I also think that you did it really well, like just structure-wise.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I really had a lot of fun too. I think it's nice to like connect with these players on a different way, because sometimes we play a lot of matches with certain people, but we just see their username and their playstyle, but we don't know them in any other way. And like, for example, I was talking to Nihat and I saw him and he reminded me of Eminem, like the rapper, and I was like,
Yeah,
I will never forget that now.
that's funny.
Yeah, if you've seen that podcast, you probably know what I mean.
Okay, it was nice to meet you. Anything else, or we're gonna wrap it up?
No, that's pretty much it, man. Like I said, I appreciate the time, and I was able to ask some really good questions, and you gave some really interesting responses. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. See you.
Yeah, see you later. Bye bye.
Bye bye.